Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with me, Salilo Makwidi. The time is 8:52 Central African Time. And yeah, you need to buckle up for this one because, again, the headline reads USA, Donald Trump, and South Africa. Yesterday, or yeah, yesterday evening, if not on social media or watching the news, well, there was a really, really strong message from Donald Trump, essentially saying we are not invited to Miami. We're not invited to next year's G20. Yes, the same G20 that was recently hosted right here on our soil. We we are not invited. I'm not sure if you can invite, disinvite. I don't know, but according to Donald Trump, we are not invited to next year's G20. And according to US President, South Africa is now persona non grata and accused of human rights abuses against white farmers. Accusations widely discredited both here at home and international. Donald Trump cited that South Africa's alleged refusal to hand over the G20 gavel to a senior US envoy, a diplomatic handshake that turned into, shall we say, a sharp elbow. And the result of that, well, South Africa being booted out from the 2026 summit in Miami, and also US subsidies being halted, relations on ice, and questions hanging heavy in the air. Are we witnessing a recalibration of global alliances or a full blown breakdown in US SA diplomacy? Joining us now to unpack the consequences and the underlying motives of this latest move by Donald Trump. Seems like we wake up every week. There's a story on South Africa, the USA, and Donald Trump. But yeah, we're going to be unpacking it all. And as always, we'll be doing so with international relations analyst, Dr. Oscar van Heerden, who always offers some really wonderful insights when it comes to these dynamics. Dr. van Heerden, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure.
Good morning, Lila, and good morning to your listeners.
I think first and foremost, there's a lot of conversations being had about whether or not United States of America can indeed, whether it's legally or procedurally, bar South Africa from G20 participation. I think before we move on with the conversation, we can start there. Can you not invite a country, a founding member of the G20 to a G20 meeting?
Well, Salilo, it's not it has never happened before. It has not been done before. But I assume that since the United States of America is the host nation, they can decide who they want to invite into their house and into their home and who not. And so I assume, practically what this would mean is obviously rejecting diplomatic passports of the South African delegation, not issuing visas where it's required, and generally just barring South Africa from coming into the United States, like they did this September with the UN General Assembly, when they simply refused to allow the Palestinian Authority into the country, including the Iranians. So it can be done practically. As to whether it had been done before, never.
Very, very interesting. Just reflecting on South Africa's G20, you and I were there, looking at what happened there, and looking at other, G20 member states. How do you think they might respond to this, considering that there was, according to many analysts, a very, very successful summit here in South Africa? What would the response be there from other member states?
No, I think there's going to be blowback. I think this is a diplomatic faux pas on the part of Donald Trump and his administration. I think first and foremost, BRICS countries are also going to boycott the 2026 G20. I think Brazil, Russia, India, China are all going to say, if South Africa is not allowed to come, then we will also not come. That's number one. I do want to say that some European countries are also going to follow suit. I think that the United Kingdom, being part of the Troika, which is South Africa, the US, and the UK, the way the system works is it has now moved from South Africa as the host this year to the US next year, and then in 2027 it goes to the UK. And I think Keir Starmer will also bring pressure to bear on Trump and his administration to say, this is not the done thing, we need to allow South Africa to come. And then finally, I think that the fact that the rest of the G7 nations defied Trump's boycott, came to the South African G20, implicitly says that we don't agree with your claims, your false claims, and your lies about there being a white genocide, about land expropriation, about killing of white farmers, and so forth. And that's why we are honoring the invitation, and they all came to South Africa. And I think that kind of solidarity is going to also put pressure on Trump as we get closer to the events in December next year. So for all these reasons, and then finally, Salilo, I think it's important to also say we know that Trump is a flip-flopper.
Mm-hmm.
He exerts a schizophrenia behavior. So today he posts that we are not invited. Who knows, in 3 months' time, we might be the best buddies and then say, no, they are coming.
And I think that's the most concerning thing. This figure that you're dealing with, so unpredictable. Let's hope a response from the South African government. They put out a statement. I think a few hours after that announcement from Donald Trump on his Truth social media platform. Do you think that response was the correct one coming from Pretoria? And what does this latest, shall we say, saga or craze by Donald Trump tell us about US and SA relations? I think we spoke about this so many times at length, but there always seems to be something new. Could this be a response to our G20 and how the United States felt like, they lost out, essentially? Their stance was not received by everyone else. As you mentioned, there was a successful G20 here on South African soil, something they hoped wouldn't happen, and they had to flex their muscle in some way, essentially.
No, absolutely. This is a blowback. This is a direct response to the embarrassment of the success of the G20 in Johannesburg. And I think that the truth of the matter is, the Secretary General of the United Nations was asked about the tension and the spat between South Africa and the United States. And his answer was very insightful. He says, President Ramaphosa and the South African government have conducted themselves with dignity and with respect with regards to this diplomatic tension. And I think that South Africa is going to continue in that vein to show that they are the mature individual in the room, that it's not about tantrums and emotions, and that they will deal with the United States with mutual respect and dignity and expect the same. So, for example, Trump knows that he's lying when he says a senior official of the embassy. A charge d'affaires official is not a senior official of the embassy. It was an insult for Trump to want to send a junior official to go and receive the gavel from the President of the Republic of South Africa. It was his way of giving South Africa the middle finger. It was his last attempt to try and insult us. And I think that the South African government responded in the most dignified way and said, no, we are not going to be treated like this and be insulted in front of the international media, in front of the cameras. We are going to take this away from the cameras. We will do the handover the next day at the DIRCO offices, where an equal status official will meet the charge d'affaires and give the gavel and hand it over. So again, I think that the attempt to insult and embarrass publicly was removed, and that in itself again said to Trump that he didn't score those brownie points. So no, this is him being emotional. This is him being upset because no one listened to him, and they certainly didn't follow suit with regards to his boycott. And the big message, like, is the fact that the rest of the world said we will move forward without the United States.
Mm, mm, mm. I'm getting a comment here from our social media. One of our listeners is asking, can South Africa really rely and count on other countries on the G20 and those that are part of BRICS to be in solidarity with them after Trump announced Snub to G20 summit? I think a very, very important question. Can we rely on our BRICS partners, on the rest of the member states, to say, there's no G20 here if, you're treating one country this certain way? Who's to say we won't be the next country in line to be treated the way that you're treating South Africa? Very, very important question. How would you respond to that?
No, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. That is my prediction. I think we can rely on these countries, just like President Ramaphosa relied on the rest of the G20, and they all came to South Africa, regardless of the boycott of Donald Trump. So we definitely can rely on the support of others. We've just signed a free trade agreement with Indonesia, diversifying our markets. We know, for example, recently, China has donated 3.5 million US dollars towards the HIV/AIDS campaign and so on. So again, China stepping in as an alternative to the PEPFAR funding.
Mm-hmm.
I think that countries, the world's order has shifted. Trump is wanting to realize that there is no strategic thinking taking place in Washington, D.C. They don't want to accept that the world is no longer dependent on one hegemon called the United States of America. And this is the multilateral message that was sent to Trump, and that's why he's so upset.
Before I let you go, Doc, let's just assume that the G20 in Miami does take place next year, and in some way, whether procedurally, South Africa is not a part of it. Our delegations are denied visas, and life is just made hard and difficult and impossible, for us to be part of that summit. And looking from the experience of the summit that we had here in South Africa and being so close to it, how much of a loss would it be for us not to be present in Miami next year?
I don't think it's necessarily a loss. I think it would be unfortunate. And I think that, as you said, I don't think it will be a train smash per se. I think that the United Kingdom will simply just extend the invitation to South Africa for 2027, and the world will continue. But as I say, I think we haven't seen the end of this particular saga. I think that, in my prediction, Trump yet again is going to end up with egg on his face.
There you have it. I think we're going to do on that note. Dr. Oscar van Heerden, our international relations expert. Always a pleasure having you on air. Really, really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, I think interesting times ahead. You wake up and there's always something new when it comes to South Africa and the United States of America and this Trump administration. And it'll be interesting to see if indeed there will be an exclusion of South Africa from the 2026 G20. And if, as Dr. Oscar van Heerden suggests, there a solidarity from other countries, whether it's G7, G20 bloc, BRICS partners, are they going to say, well, if South Africa is not coming, then we're also not coming? The same way they said, well, if the United States of America is not coming to South Africa, we'll be going there. And I think that's the most important part. Are you concerned, though, as a South African, the fact that our relationship with the United States of America is getting colder and colder by the day? There's always something. I mean, this is the second story that we're covering this morning regarding our relationship with the United States of America, proposed AGOA 2.0 that completely isolates South Africa. And now Donald Trump saying we won't be invited to the G20 summit. By what I've read and the little research that I've made, it doesn't look like a country gets to invite another member of the G20 to a summit, as South Africa is a founding member and a fully fledged partner, not invited partner. We just naturally have to be at the summit. But there might be other ways that our lives might be made difficult, that we might not be part of the G20 summit. The Donald Trump administration might decide that they're not going to be giving visas to our delegates, and it looks like a possibility. But with the US and Donald Trump, you just never know. You just never know. Everything is unprecedented. And as Rashida Banu Suleiman says on Facebook, Trump is acting like a spoiled child. And it's really unfortunate that you have the leader of quote unquote the biggest economy, most powerful country in the world, behaving the way that he does, especially towards South Africa, a country that's been relatively in good terms with the United States of America for a very, very long time. You can engage with us. Tell us, what are your thoughts about these new turn of events, us potentially not being part of Miami 2026 G20 Summit? You can call us 011-680-0355, or on WhatsApp. You can send us a voice note or a message on 061-766-0355. Are you concerned or you don't care? Going to take a quick break. News and views continues after this.